This is Rav Meir Shapiro number 12. It's hard to believe that with everything we've discussed, all of his accomplishments, all that he did for Klal Yisrael, we perhaps haven't touched on his single greatest contribution in the time. His lasting contribution certainly has been Daf Yomi, but at the time, Rav Meir did something which was absolutely radical, and we're going to try to explain that, which today doesn't at all sound that way, but it was for the time. He built Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin in Poland. The idea of having such a yeshiva in Poland, right? Poland was dominated by Hasidic Jewry. Of course, Lithuania was more Litvaks. There were yeshivas in Poland also. The Miras in Poland, etc. But we're talking about a place for Polish Jewry and Hasidim and the young of that time. There was no such thing as Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin. There was no such thing as having a beautiful yeshiva building with a bakery inside and a mikveh and an atlas and a world-class library and all the other things which we'll learn about. And this was another attempt that Rav Meir did to be Meirim Keren HaTorah, to push up the cause of Torah and the cause of Yiddishkeit with his enormous passion and love and dedication to doing things which no one else had done before, as we've learned about. So we're going to dedicate a session or two or three to understanding a little bit about that revolution. But first, I just want to talk about how it started, and it's really worth a session on its own. Rav Meir, we might have mentioned, was part of a wealthy family. Was born into a wealthy family, had the luck, let's call it the mazel, the siyata d'shmaya, to be part of such a family. Why is that relevant, friends, in this discussion? So Rav Meir remembered growing up, he had a group of 8 friends he related to, and he said that some of those students, some of those boys, his friends, his young Hasidic friends, were in fact more talented than him. Hard to believe. Hard to imagine their brain power, their memories, etc. I don't know exactly what. They were on a higher level than he was. So where did these people end up? Why do we know about Rav Meir Shapiro? We don't know about them. He says that they ended up being radically left and irreligious, etc. It sounds like, unfortunately, all of them, from the impression you get from the book, written by his Talmud, Yeshua Balmol, which we've been quoting all the time, which is, I of course have the English translation. They left the faith. They weren't even, Lomi Boy, they weren't Rav Meir Shapiro, but they weren't even practicing Jews by the end. What happened? So he says that their parents did not have the means to take care of them, and they had to go work at a too young an age. This is a struggle. I know my grandfather, Alav Hashem, also used to comment that he wanted to go to yeshiva, and he tried to go to yeshiva. He was maybe in the yeshiva a little bit. There was no money. The situation was so difficult. He couldn't handle it. As we'll see more about, right? Even if you made it to yeshiva, the Tanaim, the conditions were horrific often and terrible, which we will talk about. And that was it. And at that point, as a young child, he made it he used to say, his heart had wept bitter tears mingled with the blood of his soul. Why did it have to be this way? Why weren't the leaders concerned about the children of the poor? Why should material considerations have to prevail over spiritual needs? This is what a young kid was thinking, and he decided then he was going to do something to change the situation. And there's certain words written here. Again, this is a translation, but which really caught my eye, which I want to focus on for 2 minutes. Rage, anguish, compassion. These were the emotions that Woken writhed in his storming, sensitive heart. Rage, anguish, compassion. Amazing to think that Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin, this massive structure which exists until today, 6 stories. It's anybody who goes to Lublin visits it. I think even we had a Daf Yomi there. Shiurim are given there today. I think there was a Siyum Daf Yomi there even this year. Rage, anguish, compassion. This is a mark, from my little experience, of great leaders, certainly of certain great leaders, that strong emotions together with the mind to control them and to guide them, of course. So, emotions gone uncontrolled can turn into all types of terrible things. But those types of things, rage, anguish, compassion. Baruch Hashem was in Eish Torah for many years. I wasn't a student of Rabbi Weinberg or Noach, but I certainly had a lot to do with him, and I certainly had a great respect for him, which is needless to say. But Reb Noach, something you saw in him was also like a rage and an anguish and a compassion, and that pushed him. We used to use the word in Eish Torah, a wonderful word, and I always like to say every yeshiva, every institution, and if you're building an institution, it's good to develop those, has a lexicon. They have their lexicon, their words, which stand out in their place. And a word that stood out by Rav Noach was urgency. Urgency. The situation is urgent. Everybody else is okay. It's something urgent. Klal Yisrael is going off. People are far from Torah. It's urgent. We're losing them. It's urgent. Those types of words which evoke emotion, which describe emotion, are critical words that great leaders, those who really make a difference, so often feel. Rage, compassion, anguish. They're really moved by something. And the younger Meir was moved, and through being moved so much, that's how he made such a difference. That's how he carried the day. That's why he made Chachmei Lublin, which we'll be learning about more in current weeks.